For today's session, we have a few objectives. One is to basically examine AI's role in transforming higher education by enhancing personalized learning and improving graduate preparedness for the future job market. To highlight the development of resilient digital competencies to ensure students are equipped to meet the evolving demands of a globalized, tech-driven workforce. Assess the impact of digital tools on graduate employability, ensuring students possess the skills modern employers need in a rapidly digitizing economy. And last but not the least, to promote strategic collaborations between academia and industry to drive innovation, lower implementation costs, and sustain long-term educational resilience. Now, in a quick poll, how many of you today have actually used AI before you came into this room? It can be a voice assistant, you see? So AI is like a personal assistant we never asked for, but someone whom we can't live without of late. And apart from the small things, AI and the digital world is trying to shape how we learn and how we work for the future. And as per McKinsey report and many other reports, by 2030, Africa will have the largest workforce in the world. Yet, 40% of the employers right now are not able to find the right talent to match the digital skills for their roles. Now, I would like to invite, without much ado, our two panelists, Dr. Robert Gatero from Riara University, the Vice Chancellor, and Mr. Bernard Ochan, who is the Career Relationships Manager. And we are looking forward to having an interesting conversation. Where is Bernard? Yeah. Okay. Right. So as I discussed before, the significance of digital competencies and in terms of building capacity for the students in Africa, to make them job ready for the future digital economy is very critical. My first question to you, Robert Gatero, from a Riara University perspective, just to go back to yesterday's discussion, I heard Dr. Olive speak about resilience during the COVID time when I think she adapted to the e-learning platform. Just correct me if I'm wrong. And on the same lines, when you talk about leadership, Gatero, yourself and the team at Riara University in 2020 happened to forge a partnership with Airtel Kenya to set up embedded systems, robotics, and digital AI lab to enable students to get hands-on experience. Now, if you could please elaborate on how these hands-on experiences are preparing students for the future jobs, especially on the digital side. And if you look at the journey from 2020 till today, where you are building up a new campus at Konza Technopolis, and with a keen focus towards innovation and entrepreneurship, how has the journey been? And if you could please share the vision of Riara towards these emerging technologies.
Oh, wow. Wish me luck. So first, it's great to be here and to be on this panel. I really, and I wish, I was speaking to some students, and I wish we had some students in the panel. But I will encourage the students here to also contribute during the contribution session so that we also hear their perspectives. So yes, when COVID happened, we were just getting ready to transition to our LMS, like several other institutions have said. So we were able to transition immediately. But we were also in touch with Airtel Kenya, which is a telecoms company in East Africa. And they supported us with a robotics and embedded systems lab, which is fully operational. And that lab is geared primarily towards training for the job market. So we decided we are not going to start with a bachelor's program. We'll start with a diploma program because it's very, very hands-on. And that program is doing extremely well. We trace our graduates, and about 93% of them have something to do within 1 year of graduation. And a good number of them are getting retained when they go for attachment. So that forced us to also now go fully online, because when students go for attachment and they don't come back, it is a problem because they are not completing. And so we were insisting after COVID, we do blended. And we did a study among our students, and we do it every few months. every 2 semesters just to see their preferences. And the current preference is where about 85% prefer blended learning, with only a few preferring fully online and even fewer preferring fully physical. So we have to keep adjusting with what the students are preferring without losing sight of what the employers are looking for. So piggyback on that, our motto as an institution has been nurturing innovators from inception. So that was the vision of the founders, nurturing innovators. And so we are 12 years old now. And when we go to 10 years, we asked ourselves, are we really living up to this vision and the dream of the founders who are still with us? There are 2 Kenyans. The gentleman is 95 years old, and the lady is 88. And we say, perhaps not. And so we decided to fully be intentional in developing our capacity to build, to nurture innovators and build entrepreneurial ecosystems. And we were discussing over tea even with Rose and a few colleagues about what the institutions intend to do and what the regulators require us to do. So, for example, when we want to invest in some of these technologies, the regulators require us to have 50 acres of land for us to get full accreditation as a charter. And so you're like, do I go buying land around Nairobi or do I build digital competencies? So we made a decision to invest in Konza Technopolis. In the conversation earlier, Jumanne said, many African countries are not doing smart cities. So Kenya decided to dare to dream and has built a 5,000-acre new city called Konza City, which is a smart city. Phase 1 is done, horizontal infrastructure, world-class infrastructure, and a new institution coming there. And now Riara is the second institution there. And the purpose for that is because it's an innovation ecosystem. It's a smart city. Our vision is inspired by Silicon Valley. Konza City actually is being referred to as a Silicon Savannah. So our vision is inspired by Silicon Valley and the role that Stanford University plays in Silicon Valley, because the story of Silicon Valley cannot be written without talking about Stanford, is what we see as our vision for being in Konza City, to be the Stanford of Konza City. It's a big dream, but we are benchmarking as much as we can, and what we've learned from the Education Collaborative has been very, very powerful in sharpening our clarity on what we need to do, and we're working with many other partners. I don't want to go into the details of that. But overall, I think for us where we sit, we are now on a pathway where we are seeing the outcomes in the students that we are releasing into the job market. We want, and it's similar to what Natalie was saying earlier, not everybody will be an entrepreneur. For us, about 15% of our graduates start businesses, and about another 10% start businesses as they do further studies. So about 25%. And we're like, can we push it further than that? Perhaps not, because also there's a certain age at which you need to be to really drive some innovation, some businesses, looking at the overall population. So it's been an exciting journey. I think we're just scratching the surface, but we are very, very intentional in what we're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gateru. And Mr. Bernard, you've been deeply involved with the EduCollab digital skills assessment tool, which has been introduced at Cavendish, and also I believe the one which you are in-house developing as well. So can you please elaborate on how this tool has impacted the educational outcomes at your institution, and how is it shaping the future of your students when it comes to digital competencies and being employment ready?
Wow. Thank you, PK and Prof. Robert. Do you want the long way or the short way?
Whichever way leads to Rome.
All right. I want to start with a small reflection, with a view that we live in times where technology is running faster than the education. In the 1800s, in the creation of machines, university education was introduced to respond to the management of the machines that were created by such technologies. And up to now, as we speak, our education system is teaching people to treat the aftermath of what has been created by technology. I've been privileged to teach in a medical school, and I always complain that when we go to class, we are teaching people how to treat a disease, but not how to prevent it. And this is something that the conversations that we have been having to what it is right now, seemingly disruptive, and we need to think that way. And after saying that, other nations have entered into the 5th generation 5G. Africa, Uganda, we're either in 3 or 4G. What does that mean? Technology has gone a few miles away, and we, as the educationists, are struggling to catch up. This is a very big challenge, really big, so that, like the questions were asked, what are we doing to prepare the graduates for a future of work that we are not even certain how it looks like? That is how technology has come to interrupt and maybe create different perspectives on what we do. Now, after saying that, we also have to agree that because of technology, the way we work, the way we communicate, and the way we access information has changed. Now, that to me is a challenge as an educationist first, then a very big challenge as someone who is striving to develop graduates who will go out there and compete favorably for a job or create one if they cannot get any. That said, this is a challenge that I want to consider something that we can use for a purpose. Now, looking at this challenge that has been created, the gap that has been created by technology, and education striving to run to meet that gap, it is time to reimagine whatever it is that we do, starting with the reason for higher education. What is it that we want to achieve as higher education institutions? It is time to rethink the way we teach, the pedagogy. Some people will call it andragogy. We just need to rethink it so that we can allow new ways of thinking, allow creativity, allow people to make mistakes that later on will be used to create solutions and not punish those mistakes. Whoever's done a master's or PhD, your supervisor must have told you the theory you have picked is not the right theory. I'm now thinking, who made it the right one or the wrong one? As if that is not enough, that for you to graduate from that program, you need to have based all your research on a theory. And if you look at the theory that they're asking you to do is Eurocentric, then the small ones that are created in Africa using the different Afrocentric paradigms are pushed aside because they think maybe we don't think well, or maybe when we think well, somebody's going to suffer. Now, with all that in mind, when we rethink pedagogy, we rethink the content of what we teach, then we rethink also the assessment of everything that we give. We are moving towards the right direction to feed the industry with the kind of people they're looking for. Rethinking that then means even rethinking the whole definition of the word learning. the whole definition of the word teaching. I think teaching, as defined, is imparting knowledge. We need to rethink it and say maybe creating a conducive environment for learning, because that will allow creativity, it will allow for errors, it will allow for people to say things that when they are wrong, they are corrected, and the correction will stay permanent in them, and that then is learning. Creating a permanent change in somebody could be for the good or for the bad. Now, with all that in mind, it's true that at Cavendish, we are an institution that is very passionate about students. We are student-centered in everything that we do. And what governs what we do is the mission, that is to empower graduates to reach their full potential in employment, entrepreneurship, and ethical leadership. Now, how we do this is in a very student-centered way. What we do and how we do it, the student is at the back of our mind. Because by the end of it all, it's the outcome that counts when we do that. Now, that said, we are a university of about 5,000 students. And of the 5,000, 40% are distance learners. That then speaks to what I'm going to speak about, digital skills. 40% are digital learners, DL learners, distance learning learners. Of the 40%, of the 500, 53% are international students. 53%. Now, if you do your business in ways that can only employ people within Africa and Uganda, then you failed it. So yes, we do our teaching. We have a very robust learning platform that you can use anytime. And we are lucky that through the administration, we have zero-rated access to that platform through Airtel, just like Prof. Gatero said they're doing too. Our students are able to access the learning platform at a very mega fee, which the university pays for them, just to solve the problem of digital inadequacies in different places that they can have. Now, to speak about the Bridger digital skills that we implemented, I will just say what it looks like, and I allow for every other institution to try it out because the success is huge. Now, the Bridger digital skills assessment tool is a free app, is a free platform that assesses digital skills that are required by the world of work. After taking the test, the results are sent to you, highlighting the areas that you need to fix. And when you fix them, you'll get success after. The skill test assesses 5 sections. The 5 sections are coding, data, design, content development, and digital communication. Allow me to end there for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Before I come back to you, Dr. Gitiru, just a segue to what you explained, Bernard. You mentioned about the 5 benchmarks, right? And you have seen results from the university in terms of students being able to map onto those 5 benchmarks. Now, in the interest of time, if you can pick out 3 to 5 points which you could share with the other universities within Education Collaborative, which would possibly excite them to use this particular tool in the university, to see the kind of results which the Cavendish has seen in the past, what would those points be? Or what would those learnings be which you could share with the other stakeholders within Education Collaborative? Okay,
thank you. One is that when the students take the test, they're able to realize their digital incompetencies. The report given to you will give you an avenue to mitigate that area. That's one. Then number 2 is the success rate of those who complete the test and mitigate the areas. There was one who went for internship, one or two of them went for internship and they transitioned. Just internship for about a few months, and the gentleman got his full-time job with a very prominent company. And many other small ones that are there. Like I said, it would be nice for an institution to take the test, both for staff and students, discover your areas that need improvement, improve it. You will be there. Number two, digital skills is just one aspect for employability, just one. That's digital skills. We have soft skills, which, thankful to Capital College, we have a very good program. We have cognitive skills that if someone could develop a similar tool to do a similar test and you discover where is your deficiency in that, it would suffice. Then we have interpersonal skills that could also help to do that. And very importantly, self-leadership skills. So if you can have a tool to test these ones, it would be very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Dr. Gacheru, I mean, going back to the earlier question and your response in terms of the vision of RIARA, and, every leader who has a larger vision for his organization, for his or her organization, always has to encounter certain obstacles. And my first question would be, over the past years of your leadership at RIARA, what could be those significant obstacles which you had to encounter or mitigate, especially from an academic perspective, keeping an eye for the future to where you are right now in terms of the new campus at Technopolis, and how has that experience improved your resilience for yourself as a leader as well as for the university in terms of moving forward with new challenges?
I'll start by giving a personal challenge that I encountered. This is to do with my son. So I have a son in Form 2, for those who know Kenyan system, second year of high school. So when they finish Form 1, in Form 1 they take so many courses. And then Form 2 they drop some and they continue with them up to Form 4. So when it came to time for him to drop courses, so I asked him, so which courses are you dropping? So he told me, it's not that I'm dropping, I have already dropped. And one of the courses I have dropped is computer studies. So you can imagine the shock. Here I am talking big things, RIARA being Stanford of Konza and all that. And my son has dropped computer studies in high school. So I had a chat with him and asked him, okay, so, digital era and that blah, blah, blah that we start talking about them, the future is digital. And I asked him, so why you don't want anything to do with digital? And what he said is that, Dad, what you're being taught does not make sense to me whatsoever. He took out the book for me and said, look at the things we are being taught. They do not make sense to them whatsoever. They're able to learn and pick digital skills organically. Here we are, all of us are digital migrants, trying to pretend to teach digital natives how to use digital systems, And that is something we need to be alive to, that we sometimes we pretend we know too much. These guys are already way ahead. So we need, and I really like the model of Cavendish, where you assess where they are and you develop them from there so that they are able now to be able to reach their goals. And that's where AI systems come in. And I'll answer the question you asked briefly. That's where AI comes in. And so I don't know, maybe just by a show of hand, how many of us have developed generative AI policies in our institutions? I see one hand, two hands, three, four. How many of us use generative AI in our classes and allow students to use generative AI for teaching and learning? Okay. How many of us allow students to use ChatGPT for exams? Open book exams. But what percentage of our exams are open book? So you see, most of the times, the challenge is not the students. The challenge is us. Are we ready for them and their world and what they want and what they are looking to get out of our institutions? So the first challenge I'll talk about, just to highlight, is faculty development. Who is teaching these courses? How savvy are they with technologies? How are they able to allow students to challenge them and question them and critique them? Because that's what students should be able to do. But sometimes we are too afraid to be challenged by students that we just want to prescribe something they need to do. So I think we need to change our mindsets about the future of digital skills and AI. I was telling my colleagues in the university, if I had a chance and my way and everything constant, by the end of this year, we would have had students using generative AI even for assessments and exams and writing everything. So that we move to the next level of helping them to make sense of these technologies and build their own human skills, that they're not controlled by the machine, but they go a notch higher than these machines to be able to drive towards their goals. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, of course, regulatory and others, but I don't want to talk about funding because it's been shown that funding is not always the problem. Absolutely. The problem is fundable ideas.
Yeah. And just to add on to what you mentioned, Dr. Geteru, capacity building of faculty, right, or what we call as faculty development. But how open are you to the idea of integrating industry experts as faculties, facilitators, who actually bring the actual know-how from the industry into the classroom? And as we all know that AI is growing exponentially, and what we might be learning today or doing today might not be relevant in the next few months or the next couple of years. So the significance and importance of the academia-industry partnerships, more than just framing the curriculum, but then actual implementation of the curriculum by multi-experts, bringing their different perspectives, which would open up the mind of the students to actually, as I would say, they need to develop a well-formed mind than a well-educated mind.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't run away from that. We have to be very open and be ready to be challenged by different stakeholders, especially industry, but also students. And that's why I was very keen to say we would need to hear some perspectives of students. Right. So we require every lecture to have a guest lecture at least once every semester. But it needs to go beyond that. So what we've done, we need to be deliberate in infusing AI skills into our curricula. So we've taken 10 modules in our School of Business, and we have somebody who is helping us to infuse ChatGPT and AI capabilities into the methodologies of teaching, into the assessments, into all that as a proof of concept. Because if you open it up because you just want to open up, then we will not meet the outcomes we want. So we're very open to that. And we also have somebody who is, one of the best ways to enhance these AI skills and digital skills among our students is for them to use it. Exactly. So we have somebody who is also now training an AI model for us. Our academic handbook, student handbook, we give to students, but they don't read. So we have a model being developed for us where you can just write a query. There you write in ChatGPT, what do I need to progress to the next semester? And it will search across the entire thing and give you a short summary of what you want and things like those to try and get students to start, using this. It's a long journey, we cannot transition overnight, but we have to be really deliberate, and leadership really counts. And to see all the leaders here, it means we're in the right direction.
Right. Thank you. I mean, before I open it up to questions, I have one last point to be asked to both of you. We spoke a lot about metacognition by Natalie. Eugene spoke about soft skills and the significance of critical thinking for students and not being too dependent on technology and AI for education and daily life. You know, I've seen people not having a clue in terms of what's the project all about, but they make out beautiful presentations. But if you ask questions out of the blue, you know, that's completely blank. So, you know, how do we ensure that the youth don't fall back in terms of building capacity on critical thinking and soft skills, and also on the aspect of ethical AI? Because we know that AI is, I mean, the algorithms can be biased. There's a lot of talk about ethical AI. There are policies being put by the African Union, but then it's also very imperative for us stakeholders in the academia field also to give it due importance to incorporate the ethical aspect of AI into education, you know, to educate the students, not just the students, even the faculty members and the stakeholders within the organization about the importance of ethical AI. So I just want to pick your brains, both of you, in terms of your perspective and views and thoughts about these two aspects.
Thanks, Prof. Thank you, PK. Ethics is something that cannot be taught. You cannot go to a class and get out of the class as an ethical person or maybe a person of good morals. It is something that is built over time. And for institutions to help students build this kind of capacity, they need to have a very open way of acceptance first that students are going to do something bad. The question is, what do you do when they do that? I always give this scenario. Let's assume that you are teaching a class of, let's talk about an IT class, and you have a child like Prof. Gatero's son who is not seeing any benefit in technology. Then you have this one who is so good at it, and whenever he's in class, he's the only one raising the hand all the time. Who needs your help most? Is it the one who is always, or the one who is more negative about AI than anything else, or technology than everything else? And I would go for that one, because the other one is easy. He's already converted. Christians say, do not preach to the converted, you're wasting time. So you rather go to this one here, who his dreams and plans and etc. are not there. Then you coach him. I'm not saying teach, coach him. Let him learn to do the things the way you do them. Also on condition that you're really ethical in the way you do them. So it's a practice that I believe should go back to institutions, and they divine or design ways that can help students access these the right way. And if you access it the wrong way, how do we help you get it better or get it right? We write essays and turn it in to discover where the similarities of the essay you have written. That to me is like saying it's not good to share information. You're saying do this thing by yourself, but do not look for other assistants to help you do this. In fact, essay writing basically is writing a piece from your perspective, but governed by the ideas of those who came before you. To me, that is very structured, destroys creativity, destroys thinking itself, and does not allow for you to make errors. And to make it worse, you say, when you write your essay, you need to cite and listen to the citation styles. American Psychological Association, Modern Language Association, Harvard system. So where is the African one? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Dr. Gatero, please.
Briefly, and by the way, 2 weeks ago, my daughter, who is in Form 1, also dropped computer studies. So I think part of it was influenced by the brother, but she's into robotics. So she said, Dad, instead of this, buy me a robotics kit. So I bought a robotics kit. And so she's learning things on her own without having to go to class to be taught what is DRAM and what is CPU and what is some of these other things. But in terms of ethics in AI, it's a real issue. And I'll say just two things. One is, and I think Bernard has alluded to it, we're talking about AI, but where is African AI? Where are African AI models? All these AIs have been trained using contexts from outside Africa. We need to come together, and perhaps in EduCollab we could start we can come up with a community of practice and have our own African GPT that now has contexts that relate to Africa, so that if you're here in Tanzania and you're putting something in ChatGPT, it's not telling you things that happened in Poland or using context that happened in China. But we need to have our own. And I'm really glad that in your institution you have high performance computing, the supercomputer. I think it's the only one in Africa.
That's right. That's
so
right.
To do AI, we need to invest in these supercomputers that are able to generate or to crunch all this data and bring intelligent outputs. So we need to go beyond using AI to creating AI. And then number two, we need to also teach and train our students on ethical use of technology and AI. Because most of the other things they can learn by themselves. So we can only teach them ethics. So we have a program, we got some small grant from Mozilla Foundation to revise our first-year computer science courses to infuse what is called responsible computing. So if you go to our website, you see Responsible Computing Challenge, to infuse issues of responsibility, accountability, integrity, inclusivity, right, as they develop their solutions that they have ethical considerations. We are hoping to do that across other programs and across other courses, but we have to be intentional in training them. But you can only train on what you can control. So let's have
Absolutely.
our own AIs.
Absolutely. Great. Open to questions, please.
Thank you very much. I was tickled by the issue about our faculty. And I think you asked what is the perception of higher education institutions in integrating industry practitioners in teaching. And of course, there are varied answers. And I would like to ask it in a way that will be memorable. So assuming after here, at lunchtime, I say, you know what? Pay $800 and come to a class on the first floor or by the beach where I will conduct a class on losing weight. Who will come? If I am the coach, Olive, I'm the coach, and they say, give me $800 and come by the beach for weight loss program. Would you come? So, isn't that what we do in our higher education institutions? We ask students to pay fees to go to a journalism class. But this person, apart from teaching in class, has no idea about the journalism industry. Entrepreneurship, you talk about principles of entrepreneurship, you have no enterprise. So I think that higher education institutions is the time when we need to rethink. And let us not blame the regulators. Because you can combine, it doesn't mean, yes, I know, most prevalent practitioners tend not to be very educated. but they are also educated entrepreneurs, educated people who are employable. So we can integrate that. At Cavendish, what we do, in most of our faculties, a good number of staff are also industry practitioners. So if I'm teaching business, I should, be in industry. I should be maybe CPA, ACCA, I'm an accountant, I'm handling business for clients, and I'm an entrepreneur, I have an enterprise, a successful one, not one which is collapsing. I'm a lawyer, I should be able to practice law. That is my catch. We should integrate academic practitioners in our teaching. Learn from me. You wouldn't pay $800 to come for a weight loss program. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the presentations. They are quite eye-opening sessions. And before I ask my question, I want, like Professor Gateru, give a case of my daughter. I have a 12-year-old whom I discovered for a week was using AI to do assignments. So you can imagine the admonition from a parent. And my thought was, if you want to rely on AI to give you answers, you will stop thinking. So that's what I told her. But this week, I'm going home a changed parent. Because when we were talking about AI integration at Cavendish, and I found that many institutions have embraced this. In fact, I told this instance to my colleague, Professor Wanja, and she told me, you better allow her. And then now what we need to learn is how then are we going to help them not to just over-rely on AI and stop thinking. So I'm translating that also now to my space in the classroom. Because myself and many others who are sitting here, and I want to ask, are we resilient faculty? Are we a resilient group of people who will accept or accommodate students who are using AI to submit assignments? In fact, when we realize that they have done that, we return it to them. So where is the resilient, and how can we build that? So I'm going a converted attendant of this conference.
My name is Natasha from Cavendish University, Uganda. So obviously from what has been shared, we can see that there's a lot of restructuring that needs to be done on how we're employing AI in the way we teach. But we also admit that career services is a very key contributor to the employability of graduates. And with the students who have been dropping the computer science studies that we've had, I'm wondering, how can universities leverage AI and digital tools in a way that is usable and friendly to the students, embed it in the career services so that we can be able to provide personalized guidance and support to the students, especially those who are looking to pursue the non-traditional paths and or entrepreneurship as well. Thank you.
My name is Benita. I'm from the African Leadership University. I've loved the discussions that have been going on, coming back to learning more of what students can do. I'm part of the faculty that allows students to use AI in class, but then give the assessment in a way that students will not use AI, which has been a challenge when you brought it up. But it goes with, I wouldn't know if they used AI, but we give the assessments in a way that is a gamified experience, responding to part of your question. We give them the assessment in a gamified experience that students have to go to the field, do their research, give back to the community, and come up with an entrepreneurial idea, which could be either an incubator or an accelerator in the end, that will be given, of course, a coaching to go through and everything. We have a team that does that. But again, when it comes to that, I would like to know, because as you're talking about integrating AI, we also have other AIs that support, to paraphrase it in a way that is human-centered. Like when you're reading it, even if you put it in, turn it in, it would still show 0% of use of AI. So like we are fighting the battle, but we don't know who we are fighting against. But again, well, that is one of the ways that we've been using, and I would love to learn more of how else can we do this.
With me from my neighbor here. So allow me to ask this. My name is Marilyn Rono. I'm currently supporting career services at University of Embu. In terms of digital systems and tools that, we are really grateful for the conversation that we are hearing. I'm interested to know whether we have a digital platform or a tool that can support HR aspects that can help students, for instance, see whether their resumes are okay or how to do interview preparations. I'm looking at a student population of 20,000. We want each of them to have these skills. But how do we then work with each one, at a time, or there's a better way we can address this? Is there an institution that has succeeded in digitizing HR support? And can we learn from you? Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Monique Nwagwire from Kepler College, Rwanda. You talked about correcting data from students on a consistently basis so that you adjust mostly the pedagogy or the curriculum that you use at the university. And I was trying to reflect on how most of the time our students tend to go with the easiest way, which sometimes might not be really the right way to go with. Maybe they want to always be online, but then when you put things online, they're not really going to be present. They pretend to be there, but then they're not really present. So I wanted to hear from you the challenges you've been facing around referring or basing on student data to make changes, and how you've been trying to cope with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Simon says you have one more question, so yeah, that's it. So, yeah.
Yeah, one more. Okay. Thank you. Previously, I had mentioned about belonging to Cavendish University, but at the same time, I work with Turing from the Silicon Valley as a tech lead and a senior software engineer, where we handle developers from all over the world. We support companies like Facebook, Dell, and so many companies from the Silicon Valley in development. And as I lead developers to develop some of the tools mentioned, like the ChatGPT, we don't put away the human component in the development processes. The human component has to stay, as well as we get to use the AI itself in whatever that we're doing. At the same time, I'm a member of the MKAI, which is Molarity and Knowledge in Artificial Intelligence. And last year we had a very big conference in the UK, which also got attention of Elon Musk, the only two that were running all over the world, in this. The question I want to push to Professor, why not come up with a module for the use and development of AI tools, something of a kind? Why not come up with something like that? Because there are quite many mistakes we're making. Allowing our students to use the ChatGPT is a mistake, and at the same time, it's not a mistake. If we have something like the module I've mentioned, we would do much more research to better the use of these ChatGPTs to avoid mistakes. Because if you allow students to use those tools, the human component will be lost. They'll stop thinking because they know I have a tool, I'll use it, which is a very big mistake. Thank you. Back to you.
All right, I'll just take the question for the HR aspect. Madam, who asked me the question here? So, again, it depends on the process, what you have. And from where I sit at UM6P, we use an SAP system to streamline all the HR process, which has been very useful. Across all the functions of HR, right from student management to recruitment to staff recruitment to compensation and benefits to employee performance. So I think the key thing is to define the HR process within your organization first, and then look for a vendor or a supplier or a tool which aligns with it, obviously based on the cost and the size of the organization as well. I'm happy to take this conversation offline with you as well.
Okay. Before I quickly respond, I don't know if there's any student. I'll take Simon says, is there any student who has anything to contribute to this? Okay. You want to go ahead?
Hello, my name is Rooney Gitonga. I'm from the Management University of Africa, pursuing a degree in education. My take in about AI and digital competency is that it is true that we are using this, we are using it in school, but actually there is an anti-AI whereby lecturers are using it to find out if you have actually used the AI. And when they find it that you have actually used the AI, they are going to give you lesser marks or actually return your papers, which is, I think it's a bit challenging because, you know, in the where we are living right now, AI is taking control and it is rapidly being used, and a lot of people are learning about it. You'll find out that in the job market right now, someone in the job market, employers, for instance, may decide to use AI for marketing their businesses compared to employing someone actually to market their businesses. Now you find that if someone understands on how to use AI, he might actually get the job. Or again, if someone does not understand how to use AI, the employee may use AI himself to market the job. So I guess I think that you should actually accept use of AI, whereby the students are taught on how to use the AI, but and with understanding, because we don't want to lose critical thinking. We don't want to lose the original bit of knowledge. So if they are taught on how to use AI, they are actually in the job market, or in the days to come, they are going to actually get the jobs or move with a rapidly growing. Yes, sorry.
Yes, let's appreciate him. Thank you so much, Rooney, for that. So I'll just quickly summarize. First, on the same use of ChatGPT, I don't know how many have used ChatGPT in the last 2 weeks. So I was just trying not to embarrass you in front of the students that you use ChatGPT today. So if we're using ChatGPT today, have we stopped thinking? So why do we think when students use ChatGPT, they'll stop thinking? So it's an inflection point for us. But we need to really overcome our fears and go ahead of them and really prepare them, as Rooney said, on how to use it responsibly without losing the human skills. And the human skills are developed through other means. For example, for us, we require community service, physical community service, and I know many other institutions here do the same, so that they don't lose that touch. On the question from the lady from Kepler on engagement online, it's a challenge. And one of the biggest challenges we faced within shifting to online is content development. Because you see, after COVID, we just took the physical class online. But we've not gone to the level of developing really proper online content for all our modules. So we realized that some lecturers were just, doing physical classes online. So what we did this semester, we did something radical, and we said all classes are physical this semester. So we had a few students who are working. We allowed them to continue online. Now the campus is full of students. There are even queues in the cafeteria becoming unmanageable because there's so many people on campus. But we said we are transitioning courses online based on the quality of the content that the students will find in the online course, so that we don't cheat ourselves that we're doing online classes when we're just dumping things for students to figure out online. So it's still a challenge, and would like to learn from other institutions who have transitioned and developed content across all the modules, because it can be very tiresome and very expensive in the long run, but it pays off. But yeah, let's overcome our fears and really have those conversations with our students. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. And to sum it up, from my perspective, I would say we need to kind of step back and think about AI as an adversary. So it's not me versus AI or us versus AI, but then we need to see how we can walk along the same path. If you think about it, it's we who created AI, right? So it's not something which came from the sky. So it's never an adversary, but it's something which we can't avoid, and we need to accept that the future is digital. And it's up to us to have a shared vision, be collaborative and innovative. And as I sometimes say, you can't train for success. Success or failure is a consequence. But what we could do is to follow a set process where we ensure that, we do things right. And if you do things right, you're going to see success. So on that note, Dr. Gicheru and Bernard, thank you so much for your valuable insights, and to the audience for their questions. Thank you.
Thank you.